Okay, so you know how sometimes business jargon can be a bit much,
Mhm.
like sustainable scaling or systems thinking? Sounds complicated, right?
Yeah, definitely.
What if these concepts are actually the keys to building a business that lasts?
Okay.
That's what we are diving into today, the work of Kamyar Shah.
Interesting.
He's a real expert in this, and we're going to uncover what sustainable scaling really means and how you can use it.
Cool.
And to help us with this, we have our expert. Welcome.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Now, you've actually worked with Kamyar Shah,
Yeah.
not just as a consultant, but in the real world.
Yeah.
What's he like?
Kamyar is one of those people who sees the big picture.
Right.
He's been a fractional COO and CMO.
Okay.
So he's worked across industries, tech, e-commerce, even healthcare, helping businesses of all sizes tackle growth challenges.
I see.
But the thing that makes him stand out
Yeah.
is that he is committed to building systems that last.
Okay.
No quick fixes, just sustainable strategic growth.
That makes sense, especially with his thing about systems thinking. What I find so interesting is how he connects that idea to sustainable scaling.
For sure.
Hmm.
Shah says a business is an ecosystem, not a collection of silos. What he's getting at is that every part of a business is connected. Marketing, operations, customer service, everything.
Yeah.
When one area thrives, it affects other areas in a good way. But a problem in one area, well, that can create roadblocks elsewhere.
So seeing these connections could be huge for any business owner.
Absolutely. To explain it, Shah uses this analogy. He compares a business to a spider web.
Okay.
Imagine pulling on one strand.
The whole web would change, right?
Yes, exactly.
Some parts tighter, others looser.
It's the same with a business. A small change in one area can really have unintended consequences elsewhere.
Right.
And that's why Shah is all about a holistic, interconnected approach. So for example, let's say you have a fast-growing e-commerce business.
All right.
You are focused on your marketing,
Yeah.
driving traffic to your website. But what if your inventory system can't handle all the new orders?
Oh, I see what you mean. You have delays, frustrated customers, even bad reviews. And your marketing, no matter how good, is ruined.
Exactly. And this is where systems thinking comes in.
Okay.
By understanding how interconnected your business is, you can anticipate these ripple effects. And you can build systems that handle growth without falling apart.
So you don't just want to grow bigger, you want to grow smarter.
You got it. That's Shah's approach to sustainable scaling.
This idea of everything being connected really makes you think. Like
Yeah.
when I've tried to make a change in my own life, like start working out or something, and it backfires completely because I didn't think about how it would affect my sleep or work.
Right.
The is saying you need to understand the system you already have.
Exactly. And to help businesses do that, Shah uses something he calls feedback loops.
Okay.
I know it sounds a bit technical.
I think we can handle it.
Yeah.
Especially if it means a stronger business.
Absolutely. And Shah explains it really well. He says, feedback loops are the engine of growth, but they can also be the brakes if we're not careful.
Interesting.
So you have two types, reinforcing loops and balancing loops.
Reinforcing loops sound like the good ones.
Exactly. Think of it like a snowball. Success leads to more success.
Okay.
A good example is the iPhone.
Okay.
Apple made this amazing product. Huge demand, big profits.
Right.
And then what do?
Put it back into R&D.
Yeah. They made even better products, even more demand, and of course, more profits. It's a great cycle.
I want that kind of loop. But it can't always be that easy. What about those balancing loops?
Yeah, those are the breaks Shah was talking about.
Right.
They are there for stability, but they can also stop growth if you don't manage them. Shah calls it the system's way of regulating itself.
Okay.
Imagine a company suddenly gets way more sales.
Sounds good.
Right, but then let's say they can't handle the demand.
Uh-oh. Delays. Mistakes.
Exactly. And customers aren't happy. And that growth spurt, it backfires. That's a balancing loop, the system trying to stabilize itself.
It's amazing how these loops are always there. How can you even begin to find them in your own business? Seems tough.
You're right, it takes some work. And it's ongoing, observation and analysis.
So what can you do?
Well, Shah says you should ask yourself things like, what patterns do I see in my business? Or if I change one thing, how does it affect the other parts?
Looking for those cause and effect relationships.
Yeah, and when you start to understand the feedback loops, you can start to actually influence them, guide them in a way that supports sustainable growth.
not just along for the ride, you are actually in control. But it takes more than just knowing about these loops, right? You need to know where to step in and make changes.
Exactly. And that's where leverage points are so important.
Okay, leverage points. Sounds interesting. This is where we start making changes. Tell me more. Leverage points. It's one of those things, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Like you said, moving from understanding to influence.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Shah says leverage points are places within a system where a small shift can create a significant impact. But they are not always easy to spot. Sometimes the best leverage points are counterintuitive, even paradoxical.
Okay, now I'm really curious. What would a leverage point look like in a real business?
So Shah talks about this software company. They wanted to innovate,
Yeah.
but their product development was really slow,
Okay.
and they were losing to competitors.
Makes sense.
Now, you might think the leverage point is in the product development team.
Yeah, streamline things, hire more engineers.
Exactly. But Shah dug deeper. He saw a disconnect between the product developers and the customer support team.
Two important teams, but often working in silos, like we talked about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Customer support, they hear from users all the time. Feedback, insights, really valuable stuff.
Right.
But that information wasn't getting back to the product team.
So the leverage point was how those two teams talk to each other. I see how you might miss that.
Exactly. They made a simple system for capturing, prioritizing, and sharing feedback.
Okay.
And it totally changed their development process.
Yeah.
New features faster, responding to users better. They got back their competitive edge.
All from better communication.
And they didn't restructure or blow up their budget.
That's amazing. A small change in the right place. Big impact.
That's the power of this way of thinking.
It's not working harder, it's working smarter.
Yes. Seeing the big picture and finding the areas where your effort makes the biggest difference.
And that leads us to another big part of sustainable scaling. Measuring the right things. Shah says traditional business metrics, they don't tell the whole story.
You got it.
He's talking about things like how happy employees are, the rate of innovation, even the environmental impact.
Yes. Traditional metrics miss all of that. And Shah says if you're only focused on short-term profits, you're probably hurting your long-term sustainability.
So you need to think long-term.
Yes. It's not that profits don't matter.
Right.
But they shouldn't hurt your employee, your customers, or the planet.
It's about having a business that is profitable, but also resilient, adaptable, a force for good.
Exactly. And Shah has this great example, a manufacturing company.
Okay.
They had high employee turnover.
Oof, that's tough.
Yeah, it was hurting them. Productivity was down. Morale was low. They had to do something.
I bet. What did they do?
Well, instead of just throwing money at the problem.
Like bonuses and stuff.
Right. They decided to invest in their employees' well-being.
Interesting. How?
Things like on-site childcare, flexible work arrangements, even mindfulness programs.
Mindfulness in a factory. That's different. Did it work?
It did. It was amazing. Turnover went way down, productivity went way up, and their profits, they increased too.
So by taking care of their people, they took care of their business.
Exactly. Win-win.
Happy employees, happy customers, right?
And this shows something really important about sustainable scaling. It's a journey, not a destination.
You're always working on it.
Yes. You are always learning, adapting, and improving as your business changes and grows. And you have to be willing to change your mind, experiment, and think in new ways.
Building a culture of learning and growth.
Absolutely. And it all starts by asking the right questions.
Which are?
Shah says, ask yourself, what are the feedback loops in my business? Where are my leverage points? Am I measuring the things that really matter for long-term success?
Big questions, and not just for businesses, I think.
I agree. Anyone who wants a more fulfilling and successful life can learn from this.
So to wrap up this deep dive into sustainable scaling, it's not about growing at all costs. It's about growing in a way that benefits everyone, your business, the people in it, and the world around it.
Well said. Sustainable scaling is a journey of continuous learning, adaptation, and a commitment to building something that lasts.
It really is.
Yeah.
And on that note, we'll leave you with this. Take a moment to look at your own work or even your own habits. Where are the feedback loops? Where are those leverage points where small change could make a big difference? The answers might surprise you. Until next time, keep on diving deep.